Gotta get out of my head, dude. Hello and welcome to Andy's Sci-Fi Horror Show. My name's Andy.
And I'm Drew.
And we are totally inspired right now because we are going to digitally create the perfect woman. How can we do this? Obviously, we can't do what they did in Weird Science. But I'm thinking Android. How would you go about doing it?
Well, the first thing you definitely want to do is you want to get actuators and some servos and that sort of thing to mechanically design how the Android would move.
I like
a skeletal structure to start out with.
We need a mannequin that we can put latex over it to properly fill it out.
Exactly. You need to create a skeletal structure that mimics a human's movement.
Well, what about creating one that's online?
Online?
Yeah, you have to design it first.
Well, I mean, there's 3D programs called DAZ 3D you can use, and you can basically just use models. And you could probably 3D print a woman if you really wanted to, but
freaking Westworld, man. I mean, if you're talking 3D printing, all right, we have to ask the guy at Best Buy about this.
That's going to be an interesting conversation.
Could you print 3D printing in foam?
Well,
or does it have to be the resin?
You could probably 3D print
in resin and then mold it into foam.
Well, here's the thing. You can probably 3D print the components you would need, but you'd have to have some parts in metal. You'd have to have some parts in latex and foam and that sort of stuff to simulate human interaction.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, have you ever seen those robots in Japan?
Meet Erica. She's the creation of Hiroshi Ishiguro, a professor at Osaka University's Intelligent Robotics Laboratory.
They're getting really close to getting lifelike animation and reactions. Food first.
Humans need food.
Yes.
Robots need love.
Robots need input.
Check it out. Major input. Input, input, input. Woo, woo.
We need an actuator and a 3D printer.
I mean, think of your human body skeletal structure, the movements of your arms and your legs and your feet. You'd have to create that.
Well, this would be a two-part piece anyways, because no matter how realistic you make human flesh, you gotta have a program.
Exactly. See, here's the thing. There's the brain and then there's the mind. The brain is like the hardware, the mind is like the software, right?
Right.
So you'd have to create some kind of OS that simulated the basic core instincts that a life form would have, and that it would at least have the opportunity to kind of develop.
Hi. Your name is Andy. You hear that sentiment very often. You like my hair. I don't think I ever watched the Little Sci-Fi Horror Show. What S like? I think there are a few exceptions. I prefer science fiction. We don't always get what we hoped for. You're a sack of chemicals that can just pop. Who you calling weak? Good night.
It wouldn't really need to develop if we constantly updated it. You could have an operating system that can just process and not necessarily think and grow. That's dangerous if you get your computer thinking.
Well, that's kind of the dangerous part about humanity. We all think.
Not enough of us, apparently. So we need an operating system that not only could interact with programming, but also sends neurological signals to servos. Well, such as, you gotta be able to move. All right, I did the math in my head. The rough estimate for the most rudimentary movement between hands, arms, and feet and legs, we would need 144 servos.
About that.
That's for rotocuffs, including rotocuffs and bending the knees and the arms and the elbow. So the elbow can bend like this and like this.
Yes, exactly.
Neck would need at least 3 servos left and right 6.
Turning left.
So add 6 more.
Up,
144,
down, left,
150. Jaw.
Do 1, 2.
2. Because left and right.
But it's the lips and the mouth that would be the toughest thing to do.
162 servos, including the head facial expressions for the most part.
Yep.
And then the spinal cord can be 1 on an actuator bend. So we have 2.
The biggest challenge to doing this is mainly the operating system. So getting back to the main issue at hand, it isn't necessarily the physicality of it. We definitely have enough means to actually reach and get certain things done. I think the biggest problem that we're going to have, the means for that being to actually think and act on itself.
So, what would you little maniacs like to do first?
I think probably the best way to look at this is like the movie Ex Machina.
Hello.
Hi.
I've never met anyone new before. Have you?
None like you.
I think it's probably one of the best movies that year that came out, and it got snubbed by the Oscars. Good job, Oscars.
はあ私がロボットだからそうやってバカにしてるんですか
バカにしてません。
もう話すのやめましょう
マジか。なんでこんなに気が短いんだよ今日。
You're getting all philosophical here, but we're talking about actual layers here, mechanics. We gotta start with how it would actually function before we can give it a brain. Find out how much power a standard servo needs. I think you can do it with like a 6-volt battery. Like a remote control airplane. A drone remote has 4 actuators.
How much voltage amperage is necessary to operate a servo? The RC Volt community actually has a lot of stuff on this sort of topic. It looks like 5 amps times 5 servos equals 25 amps. Let me see. How much voltage is in a drone battery? Looks like all it needs is about anywhere from 10 to 15 volts out of a 2200 milliamp battery to operate.
That's cool. That could be like a hand. So that's not much at all.
No, that's not a lot.
But let's not go crazy. Let's give them 4 drones worth of power.
I think it's about 10 volts.
So 40 volts. Because 2 hands and 2.
Yeah.
And then the jaw and the head and the eyes and the servo thing, that could be another head.
Well, it's also, you can transfer the power to different parts.
I mean, to realistically do this, we don't necessarily need 12 amps from a car battery. We need 12 amps from those. They have those brick batteries that are 6 volts. So we could have 2 of those operating, maybe at least the mechanisms of 4 windshield wipers.
Exactly.
So that's elbows and shoulders. There would be 4 6-volt batteries working 4 actuator windshield wiper motors.
How many amps does it take to run a robot?
Wait, what kind of robot? A robot arm that just goes here, puts one piece here, puts it in.
Well, that's a good place to start.
No, I like our area better.
Okay.
I'm
Current.
gonna say, yes.
This is the current view of what the best of robotics has to offer in the 21st century.
Well, as far as function and not necessarily form, that's the one that NASA is creating with Honda to actually one day potentially replace a human astronaut. Dangerous missions. Mm-hmm. But Japan does have more form-related robots and react more human
Japanese
to
humanoid
pretty much
robots.
replace people as waitresses and bartenders and that kind of stuff. So.
Japanese humanoid robot, how many amps does it use? You're gonna need hydraulic and electric actuators, P-sonic actuators, and then you're gonna need ultrasonic actuators, and then pneumatic actuators with gas compressibility.
A woman is complicated no matter what you do.